publisher has reprinted the Michael Sprague books, and lots of readers really enjoy them. You do have the benefit also of not only doing well with Carlotta, but at least having people read the, should we call it the Sprague Quartet? I gather that's as far as it'll ever go. I mean, you're musical anyway.
That.
Why can't we just dub it the Sprague Quartet? And they had interesting locations. I was fond of, is it Blood Will Tell? Was that the Vineyard book?
The Vineyard book is called Bitter Finish.
That's it. Okay.
And I'm shocked that I can remember that. But it is called Bitter Finish. And that is really my favorite of the series.
I like it very much too, and I'm always surprised that there are so few mysteries with a wine background. It seems to me a fascinating subject. You kill out the wine books as well as the magazine.
No one else can do a wine mystery because I just handled it in Bitter Finish. Now, I really enjoyed the research for that book so much. And the people in the Napa Valley were so cooperative. And they kept coming up with all of these different ways to kill people in wineries and in vineyards. It was scary how many ways they had. And they'd obviously thought about it, which I thought was a little strange.
Well, as I say, with all the culinary crimes, you know, as you've pointed out in a discussion we had earlier today at the university, you know, the catering series and whatever, because obviously things we eat can easily carry poisons and kill us. And there's always, I think, a connection, too, between food and crime. They're two appetites. There's a whole lot of reasons, psychological reasons, why cooking and crime seem to go together. It's a subgenre, actually, that has, I think, a personality. I've always wondered why there wasn't the wine crime in a greater number, because the same principles apply.
Can you sustain it in a series, you know, the Claret murder, the Merlot murder, the Cabernet
Bloody Burgundy.
Or Bloody Burgundy. I may try this. This is sounding interesting.
Maybe one could just revolve it around drink in general, you know, not just wine, but...
You'd have to expand to hard spirits and to beer, microbreweries in Oregon.
That'd be interesting.
Something like that.
How about the Drunken Detective or something? Probably not. No. Well, anyway, sorry. But I did very much like that book. And the last Sprague book, as you pointed out, takes place in New Orleans, which is somehow or other is a city that seems to lend itself very well to mystery.
It does lend itself to crime. I believe it has the highest murder rate of any city in the United States right now. And it certainly has corruption. New Orleans and corruption just go together, and it's a really, and the food is so wonderful. The Cities of the Dead is really a food book as well, and I really regret not being able to incorporate food into Carlotta's life, better food into Carlotta's life. It's a constant sorrow to me what she eats.
That's what happens when you're riding in the cab.
I know.
Fast food sort of called for. Well, anyway, we have Carlotta in Boston. So can you describe Carlotta to us? She's a really striking physical specimen.
That is one way of describing her. She is 6'1", which is 2 inches taller than I am, because I did not want her to be intimidated on the street. And when you're 6'1", you are not easily intimidated on the street. I gave her red hair because I always wanted to have red hair, and my brother got the red hair, which I did not think was fair. I have given her some other non-physical traits in order to deal with the problems that I met with the Michael Sprague character, because I knew that a private investigator would experience a lot of anger. I have made her a killer volleyball player so that she can hit that ball instead of going out and shooting people, which is important. And I knew she'd have to cope with depression, because a lot of times you deal with situations with missing children, with battered wives, with things that you do not even want to think about. And I play the blues guitar, but Carlotta plays it better because she has more time to practice. And I'm not jealous of her, because if I practiced as much as she does, I would play just as well. So blues guitar, volleyball, and I've also given her, I think, the world's worst other job. She drives a cab in Boston. And that's just so I can be crabby about Boston traffic. That's really what I wanted to do, because I am crabby about Boston traffic. Every time I take my car out and drive it into the city of Boston, I am overwhelmed and awed by people who do this every day of their lives. I think, what is wrong with them? You know, why don't they just walk? Boston's not that big a city. It is death to bicycle riders.
Right.
And we tend to have a lot of large, battered vehicles on the road, and you know to keep a certain distance from those.
I thought it was just a coat of paint in Boston.
Around. That's the proper distance from another car, is the coat of paint. You know, other people, when they stop out at stop signs, they leave a little distance between their car and the next. We hang right onto the bumper. And until last year, there was a rule in Boston that 3 cars could go through a stop sign at a time. How do you count which 3?
Excellent question. Are you influenced at all in your attitude to Boston traffic by the fact you grew up in Detroit?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up in Motown, and while there was no respect for human life, there was such respect for automobiles. You know, people really cared for them. They polished them. You remember those beautiful 59 tail fins? That was Detroit's pride and joy. And I was totally unprepared for Boston's callousness towards automobiles. I'm still shocked at the way that people treat their cars, you know. Wash it, why? Wax it, why? I probably have the nicest looking car in Boston.
Did living in Detroit, and I think you now live actually in Boston, does this make you more comfortable with the urban setting for the mystery, with a Mean Street mystery?
I am a very, very urban person. Carlotta and I both get nervous if we can't see concrete. We really like the urban life. Detroit prepared me a lot for crime. I went to high school at Cass Tech, which is the downtown 4,000 student. It was an invitational high school. When I went there, they had ROTC practice on the roof. Classes across the street in Cass Park, which was a dangerous place. And for gym, we used to go to the local bowling alley, which was not a savory locale at all. So I learned a lot in high school that I probably should not have learned until much later in life. And I also went to high school during the time of the riots. So I got to see tanks come up Woodward Avenue. I got to learn when to hit the floor, when you heard certain sounds. I learned most of, I'd say half of the students where I went to high school carried knives. They weren't into guns then, but you watched your step. My sister was on the volleyball team, and they had instructions to lose at many of the schools that they went to. Lose and live was the motto of that team.
Okay. Did your sister, you told me in an earlier conversation, has had her nose broken 9 times playing volleyball? Did this occur on the court?
9 times, but not all playing volleyball.
I beg your pardon.
She also played basketball, and she was a very good basketball player. And I broke her nose 3 times, and I did not do it on either the volleyball court or the basketball court, and nor did I do it in personal altercation. I remember once, well, we had a skating rink in our backyard. My father would stand out in the backyard in freezing winters, you know, spraying that last coat of ice so that we could skate, and we found the croquet mallets and decided we'd play hockey. Well, that took care of my sister's nose. One time, I just whacked her with that croquet mallet,